Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. Today it's me, Jasper, and Josefa is here as well. Josefa, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
And today we're very excited to have Carl Bowman on the show. And Carl has been an Airbnb host for over a year, and he also does a bunch of other interesting stuff. So look forward to hearing more about it. Carl, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
So to start off, could you tell us a little bit about what you do and your bit of a background?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it in relation to Airbnb. I was in the process of switching careers. I have like a CPA accounting background, and I've just found out that I had a real joy for writing. And so I started a blog called prettygoodатlife.com kind of on the side, where I was just covering a lot of topics that I was interested in. And that turned into kind of a writing career. I'm doing a lot of content. And I needed some supplemental income, and I didn't want to my ability to travel. Travel is one of the passions of mine. So I learned about Airbnb, and it just, the light bulb went off, and I was like, sweet, I can basically pay for my flight and go hiking in Yosemite and break even on my trip and earn a little extra money as well on the side. So I started to really pursue Airbnb and learning about it and trying to become a really great host. And then, so basically I still love Airbnb, and I'm doing content writing on the side. I'm doing a lot of WordPress stuff through Evermore. So that's a little bit about me and how I got involved with it.
And what type of listing do you have? Is it a room, or do you rent out your whole house?
I've done both. I have a loft. It's not as conducive for renting out a room, I found. It's just I don't have two bathrooms. There's a lot of shared space, so I'm really renting out the entire place when I do it as much as possible. I've got a place that's right downtown in Atlanta, one of the best kind of places. It's walkable. It's a lot of really neat things happening in the city. Infrastructure projects and a lot of art and restaurants around here. It's like I said, it's a 900 square foot loft.
So when you had the light bulb go off and you said, all right, I want to rent my place out, did you have any difficulty early on tweaking and understanding the system? Or?
I felt like it was fairly straightforward I think Airbnb does a really great job from a user experience perspective on their site. What my hurdle is letting, strangers in my place, and how do I know they're not gonna it's not gonna be a disaster? What type of all those worst in mind when you do stuff for the first time, and so that was really my hurdle, and I decided to just go for it. Because I would talk to some other folks and just read online that people were having success with it. So that was really my main hurdle. And how to price, what should I charge, and all that all those questions were a little bit stressful when I started out.
And I think you wrote an article about this first experience, if I'm correct, where you said, hey, you had these concerns, but you came home and everything looked good, everything looked in place just as you left it. Tell us a little bit more about the very first experience.
I'm trying to remember the guest that I had for my very first experience. I made sure that I met the person. I didn't do a lockbox situation where that I feel comfortable now doing. I mean, I listed it for what I thought was like a fairly good deal to get somebody in the door because I had no reviews. And then I just chatted through Airbnb and just learned about what they're doing and then met them in person. But yeah, I mean, I was nervous because that first trip I went on, or that first experience with Airbnb, like I was out of the state. I was hiking in Yosemite, and but I had a friend kind of like who's in real estate, manages rental properties, was there to back me up with a backup set of keys and to answer any questions. So I felt pretty good about it. And when I came back, I mean, they had stripped the bed. They put everything in the washer for me. Everything was wiped down and clean. It was a thank you note. Everything was just as I had left it. Nothing was out of place. They were extremely respectful. And I just realized at that point, what a great opportunity for me to cover costs of travel or make extra money on the side. Then I just kept, after that, I was sold.
Right.
Yeah.
We hear this all the time. People are apprehensive at first, but when they just start, they always have a good experience. But was this particular guest, was this the first one that made an inquiry to your space, or did you turn down a number of inquiries before you started?
I turned some down. I mean, I remember feeling nerve-wracked over this because trying to figure out whether I wanted, I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't the first person. I remember getting a good feeling, being like nervous. I remember like sifting through like 4 or 5 inquiries because I had it really, really cheap. It was like $70. My place is like $70, and hotels are like $200. So people, I was getting a lot of inquiries.
Right.
I got a sense of clarity and peace about this one particular person, and I think they were in town. Oh, I remember who it was. It was a grandmother in town to visit her newborn grandbaby, and her daughter and son-in-law lived down the street. So I was like, how terrible can this person be?
Yeah, that seems like a safe bet for a first guest.
Right. Yeah. So that's what that was the experience.
And then after you had this first good experience, did you lower your did you accept bookings more quickly after that, or were you still sort of selective?
The nerves just went away after that first one, and I was still selective. I really tried to find people that had at least 3 or more good reviews, and just seemed like, were willing to chat a little bit with me about what they're doing in Atlanta, why they're visiting, and help me get to know them a little bit. But after that, yeah, I mean, now I quickly began to realize, most people that are attracted and willing to do Airbnb tend to be a very kind of community-oriented, people-oriented crowd, and they're not, I would say for the first 5 times I made sure I was there to meet them, and like people were like super excited to meet me, and most of the time, like I would talk with the guests upon arrival for at least half an hour, just get to know them, and it was a really great experience, and I really began to enjoy it, above and beyond the money and the perks. Like I began to really enjoy meeting the travelers, people from like New Zealand or Australia, all hear all about why they're here and a little bit about their lives. I found it really rewarding.
That's really cool. So you now have been doing this for some time with what sounds like a fair amount of success. What are the things, as far as your listing or communications, what are the things that you found have worked really well for you that you might recommend to new hosts or even current hosts?
What's worked really well for me is that if, I ask all guests to contact me before booking, just send me a message, tell me about yourself, what are you doing here, why are you interested in this neighborhood, and then below that, if there's specific information, like on a specific week, I don't want to have any bookings below 3 days on this week or something like that. Like, I'll have that information up there, so that's clear. And then I just, try to be really specific about the best things, the most valuable things about my place, my neighborhood, why somebody would want to stay here. And then once people book, like, I would immediately have an email that I would send them with everything that they needed, like right on the spot, so that they felt very clear about the directions, particularly if they were a first-time person.
That's great. And that's exactly what we essentially preach, is being responsive and covering all those needs. Now, you mentioned that you live in a great neighborhood and it's walking distance to a lot of cool spots. In your profile, do you also include photos of some of the nearby watering holes or restaurants, things like that?
No, I've been meaning to do some things like that. There's a feature where you can kind of like include a map of all your favorite places within Airbnb. Like, we can kind of pin kind of places that you frequent so that they can do that. I really should do some sort of I should add pictures of the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, and so you can do not only a guidebook, so that's kind of in the website guidebook, and then we also recommend creating an external guidebook, which is what Jasper has done, and we have that we give that away as a special bonus depending on how you purchase the book. But the idea is you create a one-stop shop for all sorts of information, not only about the region or the tourist attractions or what have you, but also the various intricacies and workings of your apartment. For example, how does the dishwasher work? How do you how do you turn the power on and off if you have a power outage, things like that?
That's such a valuable tool. I would really encourage your listeners to not underestimate that. I mean, the only bad experience that I've had with it didn't end up being a bad review, because I offered the guy, I was like, whatever you weren't pleased with, name your discount, you can have it, And he said, I would feel whole and square if you gave me 20% off. But what happened was all my lights are on dimmers, and it's like a very small switch next, like kind of flush to the actual light switch, and he didn't know that. And he was like, your place is really dark, and I just, you should really invest in better lighting. And I was like, what? I don't have a dark place. It turned out that he just didn't know that. And he arrived kind of late at night, and I kind of had all the lights on dimmer, so it kind of like looked nice. It wasn't completely dark in there, and had a nice ambiance or whatever. And if I now have that. But if I had that to begin with, I wouldn't have lost 20%, or he wouldn't have felt like he didn't enjoy his weekend as much as he could have.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. And with all these things, in the end, you can lose a lot of money if something's not right about your apartment, especially if you don't mention it in the description, because in the end, people build their expectations of whatever you provide them with. Mm-hmm. So it's really in every host's best interest to make sure everything is at least as good as advertised or better, and that everything's really clear. Because I'm sure you've felt this after this happened. You're thinking, damn, I just lost 20%, and that could have been prevented by just adding like a one sentence to a guidebook or an email or something.
Yeah, I think it's really important to set expectations.
Right.
And I wasn't even concerned. 20% was just 20% in the grand scheme of things, wasn't major. But I was concerned about a bad review. You could have one bad review can kind of can dent the confidence in whoever's booking with you and be like, I don't know. So it was really, really important to me to always have great reviews.
Right. Yeah, I know it's a big fear amongst Airbnb hosts to get that bad review. But actually, if you have a lot of positive reviews, let's say you have 10 or more, and there's one guy who writes either a bad or less than positive review, I think if you respond to it well and sort of just apologize for the inconvenience and let everybody know that you've corrected the problem, then I actually think that it won't do that much harm, because people know that something can always go wrong, right? Mm-hmm. You're not 100% in control. Sometimes you can have issues that just are hard to prevent. And if you show that you're professional in the way you react to a problem, then I think that can also be a positive thing.
Right, I totally agree with that. I think at the time I was just super paranoid about just having everybody not, seeing a bad review and just totally overlooking me. But he ended up giving me a good review. But I think because I basically said, look, I want to make you feel like you got the value for your weekend. Because technically, I should have had explained the lighting. It's easy to get really defensive in that situation because he wasn't that gracious in his complaint to me. But if my lighting's hard to figure out, I should have explained that.
So Kyle, you mentioned that you have a passion for writing. I know that you wrote a really cool article about your first experience with Airbnb. What else do you write about in relation to renting out your place in the short stay market?
I've not written anything recently. I'd like to. I'm trying to think. I had a few. There's that. I sent you guys a website, everbooked.co or whatever. I'd like to begin to write about some of the tools that are coming on board to make all this stuff easier. I wrote an article about how to, the various kind of peripheral businesses that are popping up around Airbnb. There's this really cool system to unlock doors with your iPhone. So you can basically email people a code to unlock a door to your place through an app. Because a lot of times my fear is having people lose keys or not be able to get them keys and have people stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're talking potentially about Lockatron. There's some other great options as well for keyless entry. But yeah. No, there's all sorts of great options. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about Everbook?
Oh, that's just the new site that's coming on. I'm really interested in this tool. I don't think they're not launched yet, but they're a pricing tool. Where I felt a little bit unconfident is in my pricing. Certain weekends in Atlanta, the hotels are completely booked here if there's a huge convention, but I don't really have an easy way to know when I should have a higher price than normal. And I'd be really interested in having some sort of tool to assist in pricing what weekends I could get a little bit more or what weekends I should be charging less. Because really there's some times where I want to have a trip and I'm willing to take less money for my place because I want somebody in there. Like, I want at least some money covered for my flight when I travel, and I'm willing to go a little lower to guarantee that I got somebody for a long weekend and not have to pay all my flight. And it'd be nice to have some sort of visibility into what was actually a good deal, because I feel like there's so much guesswork right now with pricing.
I believe Jasper can help you with that. Jasper.
Well, we have a pretty extensive article or a section in our book that talks about pricing, but these days there is even better way to do it. There's a company called Beyond Pricing, and we've talked quite a bit with the founders and the developers who are behind it. And I think they have a really cool algorithm, and you can find out more about it on getpaidforyourpad.com/blog. Because I wrote an article about it, and we have a special deal for people as well. If you sign up through the link that you can find on the blog post, you'll get the first 3 months for free. So that's definitely a good option, and I think there's a couple others out there as well that I know a little bit less about. But Beyond Pricing, I think, is definitely a great option. And you're talking
I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty sophisticated, and I'm pretty sure it will increase your earnings if you use it. And it also connects to your calendar, so you never have to update the prices, because that can be a bit of a drag as well, especially if you're changing the prices a lot according to the variations in demand, like for example, last minute pricing and pricing for special dates, weekend versus weekdays, etc. You end up updating your prices, a few times a week. So that's the other nice thing.
Yeah, that's an hassle. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of sort of Airbnb related service companies popping up. I'm actually using a company that's called Guesty right now that completely manages the communication with my guests. I gave them all the information about my apartment, and I sent them all the sort of the templates and the different emails that I sent my guests, and they completely took over the whole management of my Airbnb listing for 3%, which is
Really?
not a lot for that much work, And
Right.
so if you go to guesty.com, you can check them out, and we actually have a special deal with these guys too. If you use referral code GPFYP, then you get 2 weeks free trial. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of companies popping up trying to make our lives as an Airbnb host a little bit easier.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So Kyle, let's talk a little bit about traveling. Have you used Airbnb as a traveler, or?
I have. My most recent time, really it was my only time. Usually when I'm traveling, I'm visiting family or I'm hiking, camping. But I used it out in San Francisco, and it was just awesome. I mean, it was just so great.
So you had a good experience as a guest as well as being a host.
Yeah, definitely. In that situation, I was just my brother and I, after we had been hiking out in Yosemite, we were going to spend 2 days hanging out in San Francisco, or 2 nights hanging out in San Francisco, and we just rented a room from this couple that hosted us, and they were just great. I mean, they helped us figure out where we wanted to go, public transportation, took the time to get to know what we're interested in. And I pretty much, for me personally, I would choose to do that over a hotel any day. The way I am, like, they were really awesome. We had dinner with them one night. And it was just an overall great experience. It made the whole trip better, staying with them.
My parents, for the first time in their lives, because my parents like to travel a lot, and they do usually 1 or 2 big trips every year, they're going to France, all over different regions, Paris, I think the south of France, all that. Every place they're staying this time is going to be an Airbnb spot. So I'm really excited to see how that will turn out, but I'm sure they're going to love it. So, Kyle, thank you so much for being a guest. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. If people want to get in touch with you and reach out to you, how can they do that?
They can email me at kyle@kylebowman.com. So it's KYLEBOWMAN.com.
All right, awesome. So, guys, Kyle Bowman, hit him up. If you missed that last email address, don't worry. You can either rewind the show or you can go check out our show notes at getpaidforyourpad.com/podcast. You can also check out all of Jasper's recent articles at getpaidforyourpad.com/blog. And if you want to rent out your place and maximize your profits, you can check out our book. You can get the first 3 chapters for free at getpaidforyourpad.com. You can also buy our book for $9.97 at Amazon. Guys, that's it for today. New episodes out every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.